Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is L Hailey, and I am so super excited to be sharing my story with you today. I'm really very honored to be a featured presenter and speaker for the Playtime is Over Conference 2016. And I just want to say thank you to Cheryl Woods and her team for just really giving this opportunity to myself and to the other speakers as well, to be able to share our stories and hopefully encourage and empower and impact people as we do so. And I really hope that as we spend these few minutes together today, that you'll learn something, that you'll be inspired by something, and also be motivated to act. Because at the end of the day, when we are trying to live at a different level, we're trying to evolve and we're trying to really grow, it's really important for us to take action. So it's great to listen to stories and hear people share what they have to say and give information about their lives. And really the point of all of that too is to maybe resonate and connect with something that may be going on in your life, or something that may be able to give you the tenacity or the motivation to make that particular change and to do something, and then know that you have support and you have other people who have been there and still going there. Because at the end of the day, our journey is never completed until we are actually done living. And so again, I'm really very excited to be able to share this, and I look forward to seeing you in person at the conference. But in the meantime, hashtag authentic you. So for the next few moments, I'm going to share my story, and hopefully again, some piece of the nuggets will resonate with you and that you'll enjoy it. So we will be talking about a journey to an authentic you. And on this journey, we will be making three very pivotal stops. The first stop that we'll be making will be the Genesis. And as we know, the Genesis is where everything began, the start of it. The second stop along our journey will be the awakening. It's when just almost the storm has happened and the clouds have moved away and the sun has come out, and you kind of get an aha and epiphany in terms of, wow, it's a new day, it's a bright day. And so the third stop that we'll be making is the transformation. Once we go through the beginning in our journey and then we are awakened, then that's the moment where we're able to be transformed and to have a shift in our lives. So those are the three pivotal stops that we are going to go along this journey to an authentic you. But how many of you know that along any kind of journey, there are roadblocks, there are detours, there are a lot of things that can inhibit us or prevent us from getting where we're going. But we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So first we're going to talk about the Genesis, where it all began. What do you say about a girl who was born in Philadelphia, raised in South Jersey, was able to go to school in Washington, D.C., live in Paris, spend some time in Kenya, and then land back in D.C.? Well, what you could say, or you can describe her, as a little French girl, little French African girl from South Jersey who loves to explore, dance, and has a passion to empower women and girls. Because at the end of the day, that's where it all kind of led to. So let me just give you a little bit about where it all began. So in New Jersey, growing up, being the oldest, my parents were really very supportive and loving. We had a what I call a blended family. So my parents divorced when I was really very young. So for me, a detour, kind of a hurdle, a roadblock started very young. I was 4 years old and my parents divorced. And like a lot of kids, you feel like it's your fault or there was something that you contributed to that happening. And so in that moment, I became what my family called Miss Fix It. Always trying to keep people together, always trying to keep the peace. And that began the journey for me of creating a self that was not necessarily authentic at 4 years old. I mean, the pressure. At any rate, my parents divorced when I was 4, and my dad remarried a year later, and then my mom married sometime later. And my father had 3 more children, and my stepfather had a son when my mom when they got married. And so we now have this blended family. And the thing that was really wonderful about that was that my parents, even at that very young age, recognized that the kids, the children, were the significant and should be the central components for everything. So we do everything for the kids. If we don't get along, it's totally fine, but we do everything for the kids. So being in that environment was really empowering. It was encouraging. And just some of the stories during that time, just growing up. One of them I remember, my grandparents had a swing set for me in their backyard. And so I would go out and my grandfather would push me on the swing and he would say, "Princess," because that's what he called me. He said, "Princess, where are you going?" And I said, "I am off to Jamaica." And he said, "How does a 5-year-old know about going to Jamaica?" I was that kid. I mean, I was the one who always had that vivid imagination, who just transformed and always was going some wonderful creative place in my mind. But for me, it's like that began my journey in terms of being what I call a child of the global world, and just having that mindset. And I just really kind of love that piece of the story. And then in addition to that, just being the oldest of the sibling crew, taking that on and just really being that person who wanted to be a great role model, wanted to set a good example, wanted to be there to support my siblings. Again, more pressure putting on myself. Nobody asked me to do that role, and nobody expected me to do that either. But again, part of my personality at that time was, this is what you need to do in order to keep all of the parts and pieces together, because God forbid somebody is not happy or somebody gets upset, they're going to depart. And we definitely don't want that to happen. So that's kind of where the genesis and things began. And then I grew up dancing, doing jazz and ballet and tap, the traditional kind of dances that you do when you go to dance school. And in that time, just really loving fame. I'm dating myself. With Leroy and with all of the characters, on Fame. And, I definitely wanted to be Debbie Allen because she was just the pinnacle. And in that time, really, really wanted to dance. But again, when it was time to go to college, I said, okay, I need to be practical. I need to do something that's going to make sure that I'm secure. So I abandoned my passion and love for dance, and I settled for a career in majoring in fashion, merchandising, and minoring in business, which I went and did at Howard University. And although it was a great run, it was a great kind of career and time for me, it wasn't my first love. It wasn't my first passion. So here we again are compromising what's authentic and what I really, really wanted to do in my heart and soul to either appease other people or to make it work or to quote unquote be safe. Because, I mean, after all, a career in dance, all I could see was myself living in New York and waiting tables while living in this, little tiny room. I mean, who wants to do that, right? So at any rate, living in New Jersey, deciding to go to Howard University, I graduated at 16, so off I am to DC, and had a wonderful college experience being in Washington, D.C. area, being at a HBCU, historically Black university, Howard University, and just really embracing and enjoying that time that I had there. And it was wonderful and it was great. And after being at Howard for a couple of years, being in fashion, I mean, I really embraced it. So fashion wasn't completely off the beaten path for me. It was really kind of like a second interest and a second love. So I wound up being able to study abroad in Paris because, I mean, after all, if you're a fashion major, where else, where else will you go? Paris is the only natural progression. So what wound up happening with that, with my family always being supportive of my education and just the things that I did, because most of my family was in education, that just seemed like the natural progression, right? However, when I made the announcement that, okay, I'm graduating, I want to go to Paris, they said, yeah, good luck with that plan and finding a sponsor. So I had to really get creative. And so what I wound up doing is working with one of the ladies in the International Studies Department, and she allowed me to spend a lot of time there just looking into different things and finding different things. And I was actually able to find a master's program in Paris in English, and working with my professors and the different administration was able to get a full scholarship to go to Paris. So, I mean, what can you say? Here it is, just like pinnacle, wonderful, famous life. Who can ask for more? And most of my friends would tease me and say, oh, you've had a charmed life. You've always been able to just kind of, do your thing. You've had support from your family, and, you were able to go to Howard and have a great experience. And now you're off to Paris. I mean, really, 19 years old, on my way to Paris, living there by myself, speaking no French at all. I get there and go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I want to abort this plan. I want to go home. But after now it's too late because I'm already there. I'm already in it. But I can say that it was such a phenomenal and wonderful experience being able to explore and being in that place. And then my life just took what? A detour. And we talked about the detour. So before I could even come to our next step in the journey, which is the awakening, I took a detour and my life took a detour. So here I am in Paris, finished school, loving it. It was actually wonderful, met a lot of great people. And then the Gulf War broke out. So why is that devastating to me, you say? Well, although it wasn't happening in Paris, excuse me, a lot of the allied countries were being attacked, were being targeted. An American Express office in Greece had been blown up. I mean, it just got really, really tense to live there. So I had to figure out, okay, well, what do I do? So I aborted that mission, came back home with no plan, no direction, and said, okay, I'm in New Jersey with my folks. What am I going to do? And my boyfriend at the time, who was actually, we did a swap because he was German and he was in the US and I was American in Paris. And so when I got to the US, he said, hey, why don't you just kind of hang out in New York until you figure out what you want to do? Well, that was my huge 20-year detour. So challenging. I mean, experiencing domestic violence, experiencing suicidal thoughts, experiencing depression, anxiety. I mean, these are things that you just would not even equate to someone who had a quote unquote charmed life. How did I get here? And how do I get out? I mean, it was just such a, and not that the entire time was that way, but a lot of times when you're in a place that is not really the core or the central place where you're supposed to be planted, you don't really grow. You don't have the opportunity to get to another level in your life. And it just felt like all the things that I was doing, all of the effort, all the energy, the fortitude that I was putting in to everything from trying personal training, trying international development, all these different things, nothing seemed to be working. nothing would just spark and click. And so during that time, it was just so challenging. But at the same time, one of the things that I would always do was volunteer working with young women and girls because that's my heart and that's my passion. And so in that opportunity, I decided, you know what? I want to do this full time. I want to do this as my livelihood. So I reached out to friends, family, and colleagues, and they said, well, we'll look into it for you. And I had an opportunity to meet a woman from Kenya who was actually related to a very good girlfriend of mine. Now, I'm living in New York and she was living in DC. She's like, well, if you can get to DC, then you'll have an opportunity to meet this person. And so, with all of the turmoil that was going on in my life, I said, you know what? I need an awakening. So I came to DC, met this woman, and she said immediately to me, come home. Come home. You need to come to Kenya. You need an awakening. So the second stop on the journey, amidst the detours and all of the roadblocks, was the awakening. I found myself in this gorgeous, beautiful country with these people who were just live from the heart, just live so pure, just embracing me. And on the one hand, while I was melting down from this depression and anxiety and just low ebb of life, I was infused just by the nurturing and the environment of being there. And it was interesting because I was able to have an opportunity to work with women and girls during the time that I was there, during the 3 months that I was there. And I'm thinking, they're helping, I'm supposed to be here to help them, and they're helping me and don't even realize the impact that they were having. And then it was an epiphany, an awakening, and a time when you're trying to impart and share with people is not just about you giving to them, but it's about an exchange, it's about a sharing, it's about connecting. And that time was just so amazing and so awesome. And being able to get rid of a lot of those things that did not make me authentically me. And coming out of that situation and then coming back to the States takes us to stop number 3, which is the transformation. Once you get an opportunity to have an awakening, and part of that is going back to the things that you loved, going back to the things that really resonated with you as a child. So I think about the dancing. I think about spending time with family and just being able to enjoy family. I think about being able to do different activities, swimming and ice skating and roller skating. I mean, just going back to the genesis in your mind. And so that helps you to transition from the awakening stop to transformation and to going to the next level and being transformed. And a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, we call her the guru, she actually gave me an analogy of how a caterpillar, the evolution about how the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. And it's a process. And the thing that's really interesting is that when the caterpillar is in that chrysalis, you think that he's in there just chilling, just hanging out. But there's a struggle, there's a fight, there's a pressing, there's tenacity, there's just fortitude, trying to get through that time and that process. But when you see the immersion, like once that caterpillar breaks through the chrysalis and comes out a butterfly, it's just so light and airy and wonderful and just effortless. But then you don't realize a lot of times people see the butterfly and they see the final product, but they don't see the caterpillar. They don't see it in the chrysalis. So they don't see that progression. So going from the genesis, then to the awakening, and then the transformation in my mind is just the visual of that process that she shared with me. And I think that it's just so awesome. And so in the transformation time, that's time where you come back to, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And I know we've all asked ourselves that question. And I know some of you are probably still asking yourselves that same question. How can I be impactful? I mean, how can I be used? How can I make a difference when I'm a hot mess myself? And I know I remember thinking that same exact thing. I'm going to go to Africa and help some women, and my dad, number two, looked at me and he said, how are you going to help them and you can't help yourself? Really? I mean, what are you going to do? And I mean, I had to sit back and go, wow, he's right. But at the same time, I realized that it wasn't necessarily the truth, because you can always help someone where you are. You can share your story. You can just let them know kind of where you are, and you never know. A lot of times people, you may not see what they're going through, and you may not realize the challenges, the detours, or what phase of the journey that they're in. But never discount and never think that you can't make an impact right where you are. So just be aware of that. And I challenge you at this point. I give you a challenge. Where are you in the phase of your journey? Have you had that awakening to allow you to get to the place to take down the mask, take the mask off, remove some of those barriers, and get to the place where you are confident, you feel good about yourself, and this is why I'm here. And I remember reading a quote that someone said that service is the rent or the mortgage that we pay to live on this planet. And I think that is just so awesome, because whether you are in the awakening, whether you've detoured, whether you're in roadblocks, whatever place you are in your life, you can serve. You can always serve. And service is the key. Being willing, being able to avail yourself and offer yourself to people. And one of the things that I realized too is that at some of the lowest ebbs that I've been at in life, being able to reach out to a young girl, or working with a woman who is going through some transition or whatever it is, it just fed my spirit and my soul and made me forget about what I was going through. It wasn't about burying your head in the sand and just not dealing with the realities, but it's almost like a building block internally for you to be able to just be empowered and be strengthened. So I challenge you and I charge you. What is your awakening going to be? What things are you going to do? Are you going to take a salsa class? Are you going to go rock climbing? Are you going to take an activity? Are you going to do a workshop? I mean, certain things that you just really love and resonate with you. Are you going to volunteer for your kids' school or for your faith family, whatever it is, to be able to get to the place where you can be fed so that you can start releasing some of those things? And let me tell you, little by little, as that stuff just starts kind of unwinding and the things start to be removed and just the scales kind of come off and the mask gets removed, it's amazing. And so if you have the courage, and it doesn't take much, because courage is not doing something with the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And let me just say that you probably have a lot more support than you realize. And the fact that you are at this conference, the fact that you are listening to the different wonderful speakers that are at the conference says that you've already taken that first step. So congratulations on taking that step to your transformation. So let me just give you a little bit of an offering. So please hashtag authentic you. And please feel free to come to my website, the social media sites, because I have 10 steps to help you on your journey to an authentic you. So I'm here to offer you. I have an amazing, amazing offer for you. So you ask, how do I get there? What do I do? Well, I can give you a template, a free gift today. 10 steps for you. How can I get to those things in my journey? How can I get to an authentic you? So that's what I'm here to offer you today. And again, thank you so much for going along with me on this journey and making the stops along the way, from the genesis to the awakening to the transformation. And I am so looking forward to hearing your stories and for you to share your journey to an authentic you. I am L Hailey, and I have been so honored to share this time with you. And be blessed and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.